It is a little too quiet. It's the Ferndale Library Podcast. It's brought to you by the Friends of the Ferndale Library. My name is Jeff Milo. I am excited to be back on the podcast. We took a little small break. Hardcore listeners may have noticed. But anyway, we're here and we have a very special guest. It's going to be Carolyn Striho, who is a longtime singer-songwriter here on the Detroit music scene. The world scene, really. A lifelong musician, really lifelong writer. And has released several albums, has also released a collection of her own writing. It's called Detroit Made an Energy. She was actually on this podcast in one of our like earliest episodes. We don't really have seasons. Maybe it was like season 2. Anyway, Carolyn Striho is back, and that's because she and her full band will be here at the Ferndale Library for our summer concert series, which comes around every June. It's big shows with big top-tier talent hosted in the courtyard of the library. Carolyn Striho is kicking things off for the series. She's the first show of the summer, June 18th, 6:30. That is a Wednesday. And my goodness. So the thing about Carolyn is she's always been blending a lot of genres. You know, she has tapped into art rock. I mean, David Bowie comes up in this episode. She's tapped into soul, a little bit of, well, she's definitely got some admiration for funk as well, as the late Sly Stone comes up in this. But classically trained, piano, picked up the guitar, tapped into folk, tapped into punk. The Ramones come up in this episode. Even tapped into cabaret and flamenco, and will be, of course, bringing rock energy to the library show, but also there will be a cellist, so who knows what will happen. So anyway, she is also an educator. She's been working with high school students. We do talk about that, and we do talk about her passion for poetry and literature in general, and so much more, as well as a lot of the recent music that she's been making. Writing and recording with Scott Daly. You'll see Scott Daly with Carolyn Striho here at the library. Let's get to it. Here is our chat with Carolyn Striho.
I will rise, my friend, and be alive. We will rise through pain in our disguise, smiling instead of crying. It's so hard, we're trying every day. It's counting time. Purple clouds, they cover me, and shadows still over me.
Actually, I get to say welcome back to the podcast, Carolyn Striho, because you were on the podcast. You were one of our first guests almost ever. So you were here chatting about Detroit Made an Energy. So
yes, a while ago, and I mean, it was after COVID?
Yeah, I guess it was 2021, maybe. It was like,
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
And so much to catch up on. But super excited to tell any of our podcast listeners out there that Carolyn Striho will be here with a full band here in the courtyard of the library for the summer concert series. I'm so excited. Thanks again for that opportunity to host you. I think it's going to be a great show. I'm so looking forward to it. So.
Me too. Yes. I can't wait.
Yes. But could you kind of flash us back? I did just mention Detroit Made an Energy, and I think it is kind of worth reintroducing that to any of our podcast listeners who don't remember that book. It was a collection of poetry. Can you just describe that book and even talk about what it means to you?
Yeah, it was some of my poetry I had, and some lyrics and songs that were released, and some poems that were just way long ago, and I never had them out, always wanted to. And so I used some of it, and I had a whole bunch of stuff. It was really hard to narrow down. So after that book came out, I was already planning another one, and it just hasn't happened yet, but there's been music too released. So
yes.
Yeah. And so I had a whole bunch of things to do with the book, but COVID hit. So then it's kind of like it came out again. You know what I mean? It's like a re-release or something. And also the spoken word version of it, so I did that too.
Yeah, and I should just introduce folks to Carolyn Striho, multi-instrumentalist, longtime singer-songwriter, award-winning singer-songwriter, has probably, I have to imagine, Carolyn, probably writing your entire life, words and music.
Yeah, basically everything.
Yeah.
I know I was talking about when I was little how I would make up songs on keyboard, my aunt had those old organs, those old fashioned, and I loved doing that. So we took piano lessons and started singing and everything, and decided that was what I wanted to do, watching all these great rock and roll people and artists, like we were just talking about Sly Stone, wow. So many legends,
I know. Another thing particular to you is that rock is just kind of an umbrella for you. You have explored other genres, or you've kind of melded them. Can you talk about what that's like, and I guess why you're kind of drawn to a little bit of everything?
Yeah, and I think that's a lot to do with living in the city, and growing up in Detroit and being there and hearing everything kind of you could hear. And you didn't think about it, was just everything was there. And people would play kind of ethnic music, jazz. There was Motown. It was MC5 and Iggy, and, right into punk rock. And
right.
So I was young and I wanted to play music. So I figured out a way to, you meet up with people. And I was trying to tell my students, because they're like, how do you get a band together? I said, well, you hear stuff, you see people. Well, it's different now. There's nothing like that. There was no internet. So, it's like, we just gravitated. It's really cliche sounding, but that's really how it happened. That word of mouth and like-minded people. So.
And for as long as I've known you and been listening to you, one of your, idiosyncrasies is sort of this combining a little bit of ferocity with a lot of tenderness at the same time. And we'll just love for you to talk about that, because you do have such an energetic style, but the lyrics can be really heartfelt. You have a bit wide vocal range. You just really tap into a lot of stuff. Maybe even actually, how long has that been really going on with your songwriting? And just talk about that process, but then I have a follow-up.
Thank you. Yeah, no, you got a good point there. And like you said, just hearing, growing up and hearing different music. And I wanted that with classical, I felt kind of like, I loved it, but on the other, it was this piano I was playing,
Sure.
lessons. I wanted to do my thing. I wanted to make it my own, so that's why I wrote and had that more fierce kind of energy. But I realized if you just hit people over the head all the time, although some people do, but for me, it seemed like I needed that melodic side, some of the songs and the music I heard when I was young, a lot of that sweet kind of, catchy maybe, but the melody was so important.
And then I guess talk about some of your, we mentioned Sly and the Family Stone. Do you have some lifelong influences that have kind of really stayed with you, or just artists you've really admired and maybe even drawn a little bit from?
Yeah, it's hard because there's so many. And I think that, especially as a musician, you pick up so many things, and writing too. I think we talked about that a little bit about writers, but for music, I admired that energy. Like you talk about Little Richard or Prince or Sly Stone, but also, the New York, the beatnik poetry and people that came out of the scene, and of course, Patti Smith.
Yeah.
Because her first, records and albums and writing, the poetry, it was like, what? So, that and just the freedom, the artist that felt so free. And I think of Bob Marley, because you would see him, that freedom that he put out on stage, that it was just like, it's like no restrictions, that kind of feeling, So a lot, I could list the artists. There's so many, and
Sure.
you probably start sleeping.
No.
There's quite a few. But even classical, and even, like Bela Bartok and Beethoven, and we were talking about that. And then female voices, we were talking about great singers. When I was young, there were so many. We had the Supremes. We had all kinds of, you hear Ella Fitzgerald, bossa nova music, just every kind of imaginable, Hungarian chardash, polkas,
Sure.
and just blues.
Sure.
There was a lot. There definitely was. Mm-hmm.
And if you had a certain aspect about performing that you've always loved most of all?
Well, I know when I saw like clips of David Bowie when I was young, I was like, what is going on here? I mean, that's what I wanted to do. I remember pointing to the TV and going, yes, I've got to do it. And I wanted I wanted to be the front person and singing. And I've worked a lot on my singing.
Yeah.
Because first it was all high energy, and like just having the Ramones around, being able to play with the Ramones, that was crazy. And Iggy, and just, that pure energy. And like I said, that freedom on stage, hard hitting, here I am, and I didn't think so much as, groundbreaking women and things, but I loved a lot of women, musicians. And I just saw everybody, male, female, as musicians, but also taking into consideration that women had it a little harder. It was a man's world, James Brown. So
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Do you remember, could be one, could be several, really formative moments, formative memories, really formative experiences for you where it was really just locked in, where you're like, music's going to be my life. I know after that, now I'm in. Anything like that for you?
Probably probably what I just said was watching those performers and seeing that and being so young. And it kind of spurred me on. And then also my parents seeing that I could write, it was like, okay, so we were playing clubs young. I was 16 and I remember going with the band to Detroit. I lived in Detroit at that particular time. I wasn't, and we came back to Detroit and we played everywhere. We lived down in Wayne State, and I realized, wait, I can do this and do other things too. I don't know how do we do that? And so what I did is I did it all my life. I said, I love playing. I love performing. I love writing. That's the best.
Sure.
All the other stuff, all that other stuff you got to do is the promoting and all this stuff that we do now. I was always like, okay, it's a necessary evil, but just being able to, when you write a song and you realize that really it works. That's, it comes together like that. It's so exciting. And going on stage in front of a huge crowd, I love that. And if it's a small crowd, that's good too.
Oh, of course.
But, just being able to connect with people.
Yes.
It was easier for a shy person like me.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I was super shy.
I didn't know.
Yeah, but not on stage.
No,
so it's like, yeah. So I don't really understand how that works, but that's what happened.
But can you talk to us a little bit? I'm just so curious, and I know you're just getting at the end of a workday here, but just talk about the experience about being an educator now, because you have to distill a lot of this to communicate something to the next generation coming up. Do you have sort of some standby words of wisdom you give them?
I teach writing and creative writing, and I use music, and I use a lot of that energy. We do a lot of different things with music and poetry. Mm-hmm. But I love literature. Sure. So it's right up my alley to, I really do. And I teach special ed students. So
that's great.
Yeah. And people that are hesitant about, I can't write, I can't do this. This is not going to work for me. And seeing that somebody does have a breakthrough, the kids, is so exciting.
Oh,
and yeah, it takes a lot. It's a lot of energy and a lot of determination. That's one of the words and resilience. I tell the students to develop that with their writing, to not give up, because they've been told they can't do things, and they're teenagers and it's coming from all sides, the stress of life.
Whether it's writing or let's say it's learning an instrument, it's one thing to kind of grow up in the MTV generation and see Eddie Van Halen on a TV screen playing a guitar, and you get excited oh, I want to do that. But you really have to, especially with this younger generation that you're able to interact with, you have to kind of ingrain in them, yes, but it will take patience to get there. And that's going to be true with writing too. You just got to stick to it. It's a dedication thing. It's
true. And so I show them that, and I show them the determination all the time, because when I taught some songwriting, I remember these kids some of them were really good. And I did this poetry workshop. That was amazing. Yeah. And so I saw some of the kids recently say, I hope you're still doing that, Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. They better.
Great, great, great. And maybe just personally, because I've always known you as definitely that 50-50 instrumentalist and singer, songwriter, but also just writer. And can you talk about those modes for you, the music mode and the poetry mode, but even specifically the poetry literature mode? Are there things about the more writerly side of you that you enjoy that are distinct from the music experience?
That's interesting. I never even thought about that. So it's there. And now I'm really thinking about it, that the writing, you have to really be isolated sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
It's like more, it's not about a group unless you're doing slam poetry or something. But I'm thinking more like when you're writing, you have to have that quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody does. People say, oh, no, I need music on. And it's like, well, how can you... for me, music, writing a song or writing poetry, I need that quiet. And then with the band and everything, of course, you're out giving it up, you're rehearsing, you're on stage. That's all different.
Sure.
That's a group. I feel like that's more a collective, togetherness than the singular writing experience. Although I know that some people like that more, what do you call it, when you're not writing in isolation? I mean, they might have to have music on.
Sure. Absolutely.
It doesn't work. I know, and you would think, but it's like, I can't hear anything,
And then catch us up a bit on just some of the more recent stuff. There's been some great songs out there in the world, like 14 Miles of Bad Road. That's with Scott Daly, that we're going to see Scott Daly at the concert. That's really exciting. Or you had a cool collaboration with Aaron Zindel, too. I mean, just tell us about those songs and what they mean to you, or what it was like making them.
Yeah. 14 Miles of Bad Road we've been wanting to put out. I remember when that came together and we played it. We were overseas in England playing it, and I thought, why are we not recording it? I mean, it's kind of... maybe I just thought because it was so straight, it seemed like Americana pop rock.
Sure.
But, it works. I like it. It just goes right where it should go. And Scott has that guitar solo. It just really works out good. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to put that out. We had an instrumental, Piano Moon. And it was exciting. Jason was on cello. And then Scott and me did Blue Ridiculous Love.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you played that.
Yeah. I did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's something about that song. And speaking of Erin, she did some video for it with us. It was really fun putting the video together.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And we also put out I Will Rise. I Will Rise it's political, but it's also feminist.
Yeah.
It's got a lot going in that song. And it's also for women who have, gone through cancer. So it can apply to a lot, which is... I just love that song. And I remember doing it, and we did, remember the COVID, those Facebook things everybody was in, and people were like, and that was one I liked. Aaron and I did the Bridge. It had different titles, but it came out as The Bridge. And it was pretty great. She had some ideas for lyrics. It was very personal. That song was quite personal.
Yeah.
And overcoming some real adversity. And so...
I'm seeing that common thread, the adversity, the resilience, through a lot of your writing. But that's really inspiring. It's a fantastic theme to continue unpacking. I think that's what the human existence needs to hear, just to get through.
I know, especially right now.
Yeah.
There is a lot, and the underdog was something that comes up a lot, fighting for, your rights, really.
Yep.
Yeah, we talked about that, and Scott and I, we've been performing together for a while now and writing and playing, and he's been through some health battles himself. So I think it really is cool that we're doing these shows, especially the Ferndale one. I really was excited because I had to cancel because of my arm.
Right.
And there's,
right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But be careful.
Oh, yeah. And then I did want to talk about that group because we do have Scott Daly, and you'd mentioned first name Jason. That would be Charbonneau, and then we'll have John Barron and Todd Glass, I think.
Yes.
Todd Glass, he had a stint in the Mugs. Anyway, tell us about this group. It's very exciting.
Yeah, so we've played with them before. We had a different incarnation a couple times, but people come back, and I love that. And Jason has done a lot of shows with us and recording, and he's really amazing on cello. I love it. And, he's with John Lodge of the Moody Blues, so he's on tour a lot. But
amazing.
Yeah. Yep, it's a lot of fun.
And my goodness, I mean, all those songs that you had listed off there, you've really been busy through 2024 into 2025. My goodness. And I have to imagine you're just still continuing to work. I don't know where you keep digging up this resilience, Carolyn, but you keep doing it.
I don't know. I'm tired a lot, and I probably look it right now.
You look great.
But, you're so kind. So do you.
Yeah. Oh,
but I'm not sure on this end. No, but there's been a lot coming out. And, there was some re-releases and new music, actually, by one of my bands, Detroit Energy Asylum. So that was cool, too. That with Louis Resto and Dave McMurray. I should say Luis Resto.
Sure,
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that is something, too, that's out there now for people to listen to. Yep.
And so the most exciting thing for us, Wednesday, June 18th, mark your calendars. We'll have information in the show notes. We'll have all those details. That'll be here at 6:30 p.m. at the Ferndale Library. And then you've got some other shows coming up too. I think you're going to go over to oh my goodness, what is that place right on the border of Grand Rapids? Oh my gosh, my mind is blanking. But you've got some other shows coming up this summer.
I did. I was in Grand Rapids recently, and in Ann Arbor and Grand Rapids, and now going up to Nor'easter. It's a festival in northern Michigan. And play there this weekend, come back, and we're so excited to do the library, the courtyard.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
I'm excited as heck, and hopefully it won't rain or anything.
You know what? Even so, the show goes on, and we can still back it in the indoor space as well. And then carolynstriho.com, that'll be in the show notes. Anything else you want to shout out for listeners? I know they can find you on Facebook.
Yeah, and so I'm on Facebook. I'm on, all the music's on Apple Music and Spotify and everywhere. And you can find me pretty much on all Amazon platforms, and you can just directly contact me if you want the book or the music or anything.
Yeah, or just come to the library.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. Jeff, you're a gem. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks so much, Carolyn. It's been a pleasure, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the 18th.
All right. Thank you so much.
And that was our chat with Carolyn Striho, singer, songwriter, educator, writer, poet, multi-instrumentalist, and soon to be here at the Ferndale Library for our summer concert series, which is, I should tell you, sponsored by the Friends of the Ferndale Library. That is a volunteer booster group that makes a lot of our programming possible, and it's just residents here in Ferndale or the surrounding area who really love this library, and I mean really love this library, and they want it to thrive, and they want the community to enjoy some of the best and most enriching programming possible, and that includes bringing in rock bands and rock singer-songwriters like Carolyn Striho and her 5-piece band. So, June 18th, 6:30 p.m., that's Wednesday. Bring a lawn chair if you want, bring a blanket, or just hang out and sit on the grass. It's going to be great. And there'll be more information in our show notes. This has been another episode of A Little Too Quiet. It is the Ferndale Library Podcast, brought to you by the Friends of the Ferndale Library. Look, there they are again. You can go to ferndalefriends.org to find out more information about that group and supporting this podcast. Remember, you can also just rate, review, and subscribe, or just tell your friends about us. Thanks to John Duffy for giving us music to open and close each episode. I've been Jeff Milo. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week with more. Until then.